Hi guys, this is Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how to mitigate the damages of intergenerational trauma. We're going to start a whole new series of topics starting with this video. I've been talking a lot about psychosis and stalkers who have psychosis, and I've also tried to open up discussion about individuals who are struggling with delusions and hallucinations. I find that on YouTube, there aren't a lot of videos about individuals who are struggling with psychotic symptoms like delusions and hallucinations. It's always, under the heading of schizophrenia. It's never under the heading of stalkers, never under the heading of parents and caregivers and guardians and relationships. So I've talked about that over the past 2 to 3 weeks on this channel, but today we're going to be changing the scope of our focus just a little bit because I want to talk about mitigating the damages of intergenerational trauma. So let's just go ahead and jump into this topic. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel for those who are subscribed. And for those who are new, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stick around with us and be a part of our growing and validating community. The benefits for you in today's video is that I'm going to highlight a couple of things that you can do if you believe that you've been impacted by intergenerational trauma. In case you don't know who I am and you are new to my channel, I want to go ahead and introduce myself briefly. My name is Tamara, and I'm an internationally certified mental health and trauma therapist. I work primarily with children, families, and teenagers and adults who are struggling with trauma. But on this channel and in other sectors of my life where I provide consultations and contract work, I work with adults. And so you're going to get a mixture of things on this channel. So go ahead and take a look around the channel. I think you're going to like what you find. At least I hope you do. And if you do, go ahead and stick around with that subscribe button. When we're talking about intergenerational trauma, and I'm going to actually post a video, look up here in the cards as we go along, because I'm going to post the videos that I've done throughout the video on intergenerational trauma. When you think of intergenerational trauma, I want you to think of a series of repeated patterns of thought processes, of behaviors, of lifestyles, of attitudes that have perpetuated throughout the lifespan in your family. And intergenerational trauma seems to occur in families where there is racial trauma, where there are individual cases of trauma, and in families where there's mental illness. Now, if we're talking about racial trauma and we're trying to understand how that impacts the family and creates family trauma, I want you to go and watch this video here. Not now, but at the end of this video, go back and watch this video in the cards, because what I talk about is racial development. And depending on how open your family is about racial things or racially based topics will depend on how you see yourself in relation to other people, how you see other people's races, and how you view yourself in terms of relating to these people. So in other words, do you treat them equally? Do you see them as someone who's very similar to you, or do you treat them with a long handle spoon or fork, right? So intergenerational trauma can occur when there are repeated patterns of racial trauma that has been experienced. What happens is the individual who has experienced that racial trauma will often internalize. When they internalize, they often isolate and withdraw. And then they start developing a series of thoughts and behaviors as well as emotions that may or may not be helpful to them. Most likely it's not helpful. And so they perpetuate their anger, their hurt, their pain onto their children and onto their children's children, and it continues for generations. That can create intergenerational trauma, just a series of unresolved racially based emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. So I will talk about that more on this channel, but I'm going to leave it there. So that's racial trauma. Now, if we're talking about mental illness, that can include your great-grandmother who never got psychiatric help. And so she created psychiatric symptoms in your mother, for example. And your mother, because she never got help, created psychiatric symptoms in you. And it continues throughout the lifespan, throughout generations within your family. So intergenerational trauma can really be stopped but it has to stop with the person who has started it, or it can stop with the person who recognizes it. So if you're of a younger generation and you recognize, like I recognized, that wait a minute, there's some intergenerational trauma here that needs to be stopped, you can do it. You have to change your mind. You have to change the scope of your focus. You have to change your mindset. You have to change your emotions, and you have to do a lot of work, but it can be done. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. So the first tip that I suggest is psychotherapy. I think I'm a moderate proponent of psychotherapy. Now, when I support psychotherapy, I'm supporting those therapists who have actual training. I'm supporting those therapists who understand their weaknesses and their strengths, and I'm supporting those therapists who are multiculturally competent. Okay, so when I talk about therapy and I talk about psychotherapy, I'm supporting that small group of individuals within my field, not those individuals who are perpetrators, manipulators, con artists and schemers, narcissists, or individuals who are kind of new to the field and they're trying to take on somebody else's persona. So I'm talking about those individuals who are experienced. Now, psychotherapy can be helpful if you find the right therapist, if you find the right fit, if you find the individual that has that training. I strongly believe that psychotherapy can be essential. It can also be very, very helpful for you. So let me go ahead and highlight a couple therapeutic modalities, as we call them, or theoretical orientations. Okay, so a theoretical orientation or modality is basically the focus and the life perspective of the therapist. A theoretical orientation guides the focus, the tools, the mindset, the emotions, the understanding of the therapist. There's a couple of modalities that are evidence-based, and there's a couple modalities that are not. I'm going to focus on the ones that I support, and I'm going to focus on the ones that are evidence-based. Okay, here's a list of the ones who are evidence-based. Person-centered therapy really is a theoretical orientation that focuses specifically on the patient or the client. And the idea is that if we support you and if we have what's called unconditional positive regard for you, we can actually help you get from point A to point B. If we don't focus on you and what you need and what you think and how you view your situation and your symptoms in your life, we can fail you. So person-centered therapy is one. The second is what's called CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy. That's a kind of therapy that's really evidence-based, and it's highly suggested by therapists and the field of psychotherapy all over the world. I'm trained in cognitive behavior therapy. I'm also trained in three, I should say, modalities, but the number one modality I was trained in is cognitive behavior therapy. The idea behind CBT is that if we can kind of maneuver your thoughts and we can maneuver your behaviors, we can change how you feel about a situation. Or if we maneuver your emotions and kind of give you coping skills and teach you how to deal with your emotions, we can kind of change how you're thinking about life. And so the whole idea behind CBT is altering those things that we need to change so that we can behave better and function better in our lives. Restructuring our thinking and looking at the ways that we think that may not be helpful, right? So skewed perceptions. I talk about cognitive distortions in this video right here. So CBT can be really helpful, right? There's a plethora of topics that can fall under CBT, and there's a plethora of activities that you can actually get into under CBT. So it's very helpful. The next modality that tends to be highly supported in society is what's known as trauma-focused CBT. It's CBT again, it's working with your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, but it's focusing now on trauma. And the whole idea behind trauma-focused CBT is we need to help you adjust and cope with and manage and modulate a little bit better how you see the trauma that you've been through. And there's a series of activities that falls under the heading of trauma-focused CBT. So I won't go into it, that's a whole new video, but it's an evidence-based therapeutic modality or theoretical orientation. There's another theoretical orientation, and it's more of a generalized approach to life, and I highly, highly suggest that you be very, very careful with these kind of therapists. The modality or the theoretical orientation is called eclectic psychotherapy. And what that means is that the therapist doesn't necessarily subscribe to one particular theory or two or even three. They subscribe to a variety of theoretical orientations, and they adjust their view depending on what your situation is, what your symptoms are, what you need, what you're looking for. And I find that with eclectic therapists, they tend to be a little bit all over the map, and sometimes a little bit too much over the map, and it can really confuse you. It can make you feel insecure in that therapeutic relationship, and sometimes you may find that their theories really change drastically from session to session because they're constantly changing their view of you and your symptoms and your needs. So eclectic psychotherapy can be helpful, and I'll post an article in the description box below for you so you can read a little bit more about it, but it's a little bit of a trickier theoretical orientation, so I caution you there. Now, my theoretical orientation tends to be 3 different types of ways that I view your issue or a patient's challenges or a client's challenges when I meet you. One is trauma-focused therapy, and it's not trauma-focused CBT, it's trauma-focused therapy. What that means is that I have been trained by the International Association of Trauma Professionals to focus on the physiological, the biological, the neurological, the psychological, and emotional components of trauma. So I've had a well-rounded education in terms of understanding trauma. And has basically been, at least with trauma, it's been focused on, really understanding the individual as a whole. How did this trauma impact you in all of these different ways, and how can I help to heal you? How can I get you back on the level path that you need to be on? And the techniques and the tools that I employ as well do not tend to be those tools that you can kind of like Google online. So maybe one day I'll go into my training and I'll explain those tools to you and kind of my view of things. But trauma-focused therapy is the way that I go. Now, the second is existential psychotherapy. And what that means is that I'm focused on philosophy of life, right? How do you view? What are your lens about life? How do you view life? How do you see yourself? How do you see other people? What's your meaning? What's your purpose, right? What's your spiritual journey? Do you have one? And if you do, what happened along the way? Who are you as an individual? Are you living life authentically? And if not, why? How can I help you get to a place where you know you need to be, but you emotionally can't do it on your own? So existential psychotherapy is a great modality for that reason. It really goes in and it points at those things on the inside of you that other therapeutic techniques just barely touch, right? They barely get to those deep-seated issues that we all experience and deal with, right? Death and dying, how you're coping with the loss of a loved one or somebody that you know, right? What your mind goes through during the grieving process, what your mind goes through during a divorce, what your heart is going through. Those are areas that other modalities do not focus on, okay? Existential psychotherapy. And the third one, guys, is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. The way I like to explain my way of approaching therapy is CBT are the tools within the vehicle. The vehicle is existential psychotherapy, and the tools inside that vehicle is CBT. Okay, that's the best way that I can provide a understanding of my clinical orientation. Okay, psychotherapy, it can be very, very helpful to help you mitigate the damages of intergenerational trauma. The next thing that I suggest is what I call spiritual attunement. And you can do this in a variety of ways. One is meditation. Now, meditation isn't just sitting there and just like humming all day long, you know what I mean? It's not there. It's not just you sitting there humming and mumming all day long and kind of like trying to get yourself into the zone. Honestly, what meditation is taking the time to process what you're doing. Taking the time to process what you're doing. Are you processing how you're eating? What's the food taste like in your mouth? What's the taste that you're experiencing? Are you taking a minute to process the music that you're listening to? What tunes and instruments do you hear in the background? Because what it's doing is causing you to pause. You're pumping the brakes long enough to experience life. You're not rushing through it, I think sometimes we turn on music and we turn the volume up and we're like, just listening to it and we're trying to de-stress, but we're not really processing what it is that we're listening to. And a lot of times we don't even hear the lyrics because we're just so programmed to just hear the music and keep going. All right. The next thing that you can do to engage in spiritual attunement is pray. You can also read your Bible, and you can also journal. Those are things that causes you to pump the brakes. That's really what spiritual attunement is pumping the brakes long enough to experience life in a different way, okay? The next thing that I want you guys to focus on to mitigate the damages of intergenerational trauma is education. And I call it, and my field calls it, psychoeducation. Okay, psychoeducation is basically this. It's focusing on, you know, your educational needs, but from a psychological perspective. So you're engaging in knowledge about your symptoms, you're Googling things, you're looking up things, you're doing research, you're going to the library and getting books about depression and bipolar and anxiety. The other thing that you're doing is you're engaging in self-help meetings and groups and gatherings. You're also going to conferences and presentations. You're online looking at YouTube videos like this one, right? You're researching different people online and you're trying to figure out their theoretical orientation and how they can help you. Psychoeducation is important. It's something that really is all encompassing. So what I mean by that is, you know, it's pretty huge and there's a lot that you can learn and get confused in when it comes to psychoeducation. So, you know, I suggest, like, if you do pursue knowledge specifically about psychology, that you focus on one area. So you want to focus on bipolar disorder, go ahead to meetings that are specifically about bipolar. Go ahead to bipolar-based support groups. Go ahead to conferences that talk about bipolar, right? Get books that are about bipolar disorder. So psychoeducation is important. You just want to focus on what you need, because you can get lost in everybody's views of things. So focus on a structured and narrow view, and you should be good to go with psychoeducation. It's powerful. I really think self-learning is what I call it, is the way to go when you want to heal and when you want to grow and change. Okay. The next thing is wellness. Okay. You have to get involved in wellness if you're not, and I'm going to go ahead and post this video up here so that you can go back and look at it. It's a long video, so get ready for that, but I talk about holistic ways that you can heal yourself. Okay. And I give you some tips on some natural remedies that you can use at home, but I encourage you to focus on your wellness, supplements, good foods, sleep, exercise, meditation. Another way that you can kind of cater to your wellness is taking medication. If that's something that you need and it's short term and it's something that's going to directly target specific symptoms, try it. It's very helpful when you need it. Okay. And it doesn't have to be long term. So all of those things are part of your wellness: medication, vitamins, exercise, good eating, making sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you need that's outside of your typical fruits and vegetables, like omega-3s. What else can you get that's not typical? Passion flower is something that I talk about in the video that I told you to go check out. There's a couple of other things. There's lavender, there's peppermint, coconut oil that you can cook with, almond oil. There's a variety of ways that you can get nutrients in your diet that can cater to your wellness. Okay. And last but not least, lay aside every heavy weight. Get rid of that toxic relationship. Get rid of that toxic mindset. Come out of that toxic social and emotional group that just keeps you stuck. Stay away from drama and people who triangulate. Go to counseling if you need support to deal with your marriage, to get out of your marriage, right? Take stand, make plans to be a different person, right? Make plans to improve and to change, right? When I say lay aside that heavy weight that you're carrying, is stop trying to make something work that doesn't work. That's really what I mean, right? Because you're trying to carry something and you're not able to. So you want to lay aside that heavy weight. It's not good for you. So I hope these tips are helpful for you guys to get our conversation started on, ways to kind of cater to your needs and ways to mitigate the damages of intergenerational trauma and just other kinds of trauma in your life. So stick around for the next video, because I'm going to be talking about the different ways that a traumatic childhood can affect you as an adult. So that's coming up next. Thank you so much for being with me today, guys, in this video. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up if it was helpful to you, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button right over here if you want to stick around with us. I will see you next video, guys. Let me know in the comment section if this video was helpful for you. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.